let's get started. This is Taking a Tour of Guided App Creator, and my name is Chuck Tomasi. I've been with ServiceNow for a long time. Been a customer for a couple of years, been with the company since 2010 doing custom applications and integrations since I was a customer and having a lot of fun with it. And now I get to bring that to you. And as you know, the platform is always changing. New capabilities come along, and I am happy to learn and share those with you. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning, is episodes just like this. And we have some really, really good stuff for you today. So I won't linger on all my hobbies and whatnot. So let's get on with our next presenter, Craig Stepp.
Yes, I am the program manager of Cloud Labs, as Chuck has already said. I work on the infrastructure for any of the classes or events that you probably see or have attended with Acknowledge or any of the virtual classes that we offer through ServiceNow. I specialize in cloud automation, which is part of that infrastructure I was just talking about. And I've been with ServiceNow from 2014 to present, so I'm almost a 6-year person. My prior experience was in in PS, doing orchestration and integrations and stuff like that with ServiceNow. And of course, I've been a co-host since 2016, and you can see that I've got this whole thing running smoothly now. Yeah,
well-oiled machine.
Yeah, you think I was doing this forever, but anyway. So there you go. And I'm into podcasting, photography, and Linux, not necessarily in that order. So now I'll turn it over to Jeremy.
Hey folks, my name is Jeremy Duncan. I am a platform architect on the solution innovation team here at ServiceNow. I have only been here 4 months at ServiceNow, but I've been either a customer, developer, architect on the platform since pre-Aspen. So I think the fall release before Aspen is how long I've been involved. So definitely a seasoned architect on the platform, and just honored to be a part of the show today. And just a fun fact about me, I am in law enforcement, so I'm like Dwight Schrute on The Office. I get to do coding during the day or do my day job, and I get to go fight crime at night, so that's kind of fun. So happy to be here with you guys, and hopefully can teach you something new today. So I'll turn it back over for the agenda.
So today's agenda, we're going to take a look at our quick tip, which is list filters, which can always be handy. And then we will take a look at the guided app creator, which I'm sure is why everybody's here today. Want to find out more about that. And of course, we'll take some Q&A at the end of the slides if we have time. So don't forget, I know you can't forget because we remind you every time we turn around, Knowledge 2020 is coming. So you don't want to get to 2021 and wish you had gone to Knowledge 2020. You know, hindsight is 20. Okay, a stupid joke. Anyway, Save the date. It's May 3rd through the 7th. And that's next year, 2020, in Orlando, Florida, once again. I think everybody had a great time that attended in Orlando before, and I think it's going to be a great time again. So for all your information about dates and reservations, buying tickets, everything, go to knowledge.servicenow.com, and you can find all the information you need about upcoming. I don't know if they've announced any of the workshops and stuff, but you'll start seeing that stuff. So follow the page at knowledge.servicenow.com. And along with Knowledge, you're there with a lot of like-minded folks as yourself, wanting to know more about ServiceNow, how you can integrate it with other things, what can you do with it. This is also a great landing place for you if you're trying to find some answers, and that's servicenow.com/success. The Success Center has a lot of white papers, customer testimonials, all kinds of information, and even the what do you call it? There's a
best practices.
What do they call it? An advisor? Huh?
Oh, the wizard that takes you through. I'm trying to blank on the name too. Shame on us.
Well, the advisor wizard. Let's call it that. We'll call it that for the sake of it. Anyway, you can kind of drill down and find text, and again, there's a lot of those white papers for certain apps or maybe solutions that you're trying to achieve with ServiceNow. So go over there to the Success Center, and that's servicenow.com/success. And if you want to dig a little deeper, once you get your feet wet and you see how things could work for you, and you want to maybe develop something for yourself, that's what the developer site's for. So if you go to developer.servicenow.com, you can get your own free personal developer instance. I did that myself this week because I was trying something out and I wanted to just see if I could make it work and then make it disappear after I was done. So go check those out. You can get your own developer instance, early access to releases like we just have New York. You could have had New York a little bit earlier, at least to try some things out, maybe to start, getting the wheels turning before a release is out. And of course, there's script documentation, developer events, blogs, everything, videos, shared content. It's all there over at the developer.servicenow.com. So go over there and check it out. It's so much information there. I'm sure it'll keep you awake many a nights digging through there. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy for a quick tip.
Thanks, Craig. Folks, I'm here today to talk to you about list filters. This is an old topic, but hopefully you can learn something new today. First off, I'll tell you where filters live. So there's a table. You can access that by typing in filters in the left-hand filter navigator. And under system definition, filters. Here, you can see all of the filters that have been created and what user they're assigned to. Just a quick tip. If the user is empty, that means that it's global and has been created for everyone. All right, let's jump over to the incident table and start building a filter. There are a couple of different ways you can do that. First, you can start by clicking the filter funnel and call out the things that you want to filter on. So we might look at priority as critical. You can also, so we'll go ahead and run that. I just want to show you another thing. You can also filter from directly within the list. So let's say you might want to only see tickets where the state is in progress. You can right click on that state and say show matching or filter out, whichever you want to do. So we're going to start here with this filter and we're going to save that. So the way you do that is by clicking the filter funnel again. You can click save and we might save as crit ints in progress. And you have the option to save as me for any standard ITIL user, but for an admin, you'll get to see everyone in group. Just a quick pro tip, if you choose everyone or group, that is written to an update set, so you can move that through your upper instances. So we're going to hit save. And to test that filter, we're going to go back to all to remove our breadcrumb. Now, just a quick tip here, there is a way to remove that filter without going to your left-hand filter navigator. You can actually click all here from your breadcrumb. So now we're going to go to filters and we'll see crit ints in progress. One other quick tip for you, you can actually remove a piece of the breadcrumb without going all the way back. So if you want to remove one single piece of a breadcrumb, you can actually do that by clicking the little caret beside that without having to step all the way back. So last quick tip for you, you can actually create a new record with values that you filtered on. So let me show you how to do that. Start by selecting what you might want to filter out. So we're going to start with the same example. Priority is critical and state is in progress. But let's go a little bit deeper and say the assigned to is Jeremy Duncan and the caller is, let's say Fred Luddy. Okay. So from here, if we click new to create that new record, I want you to notice a few things. Caller is Fred Luddy. Category is inquiry. Priority is critical. And assigned to is Jeremy Duncan. So those are all the things that we filtered on, which were pulled forward when we created that new record. It's a cool tip, huh? So, hope you learned something new today, and I'm going to pass it back over to Chuck.
Good. So, on to the main topic of taking a tour of Guided App Creator. I'm going to try and get through this as quickly as possible. There really isn't a whole lot to Guided App Creator because it walks you through, but I want to make sure that you understand why we built this. And it's really for the people who are new to ServiceNow, who haven't built an app before. It's a step-by-step procedural way to guide them through when should I do permissions? When should I do table? When should how do I define a role? There's a lot of pieces, and even though Studio and when you create a new application has made it much, much simpler than when Jeremy and I started in the old days, and you had to basically do your own number maintenance record and all the other stuff, field by field by field by field. Form designers made that much easier, so on and so forth. When we started talking about workspaces and mobile and these different experiences, it got to be very complex. And Guided App Creator really lets you walk through. This is a feature in New York, and I will preface that it doesn't cost anything to use Guided App Creator. It is an out-of-the-box plugin. It's turned on for upgraded instances. It's turned on for new instances. It's just there. It's like Studio. What you do with it may impact your licensing. So check with your account team and understand what you can expect in terms of pricing. We don't talk pricing on this webinar because it changes. Something we said in 2013 may not apply to what we're doing in 2019. Whatever we say about Guided App Creator and pricing and custom apps and tables and users and whatever that comes to may not apply in 2025 when somebody's watching this. So I don't want to be stuck to this point in time on licensing. So I will give you that advice anytime you're talking to your account team. Ask them, hey, we're thinking about building out an app to do this process. My use case on this is I'm going to build unimaginatively a webinar app. We are on a webinar. I needed to track these a few years ago and said, why don't we have an app? Because I've got one that's work in progress, one that's in post-production, 3 that are scheduled, 2 that are in the idea pool, and they're all over the place in terms of where they are, the tasks they need doing, who it's assigned to, what are the roles, and so on, how many attendees came to this. So let's get on with that use case. I think I just said that. Talk to your account team. So that was my footnote. The process overview is really pretty simple. Let me move that to a place where I can actually see it on the screen. So we're going to bring up Guided App Creator. I'll show you how to get started. And then we're going to give some details, the general info about our app. What do we want to call it? Who's going to have access? And then get into the experiences, mobile, classic, and workspace. Very, very easy. I'm going to import a spreadsheet. That's another new feature that's part of Guided App Creator. Previously, you had to create your tables and then import. This allows you to import and create the table and columns right off of that. And then we'll go in and configure the rest. And I'll tell you what, at this point in New York, what Guided App Creator does and some of the things you're going to have to follow up with and do manually. So let me jump into the demo. That's English for the demo. Do a screen share on that screen, and away we go. And because I was sitting there talking, it timed out on me. So let's get back into good old ServiceNow. This should look familiar to many of you. And do a quick refresh on that. I should also tell you that in order to use Studio, you need either admin role or this one, which can be assigned to any non-admin user. It's called SN_G_app_creator.app_creator. A bit redundant, I know, but if you look for app_creator in your list of roles, you'll find out who has it and what they need. Now, you can get to Guided App Creator in one of 2 ways. You can either go to Studio under System Applications Studio. See if my cursor thing is on. There it is. You can go there, and anytime you click Create New or Create Application, it will bring up Guided App Creator. Now, there is another way. If you go to System Applications and say My Company Applications or All or whatever, and you see Create New over here, same thing, we're just not in Studio. So it will walk you through this. In my case, I'm going to provide that general information. I said I was going to build a webinar application. I can describe this, manage my webinars, and optionally upload an icon if I want to represent this somewhere. Perhaps if you're doing a different application like an integration hub spoke, like we've been doing on Live Coding Happy Hour, you could put that there and it will show up on Flow Designer as the icon for that. Or if you're publishing this somewhere, you can do that. I click Create, and it goes ahead and says, I'm sorry, that scope's already been used. I thought I already took care of that. So let's do Webinar 2. And this is where I define the roles. Now, I can either choose from existing roles in the system. Maybe I say this is only available to ITIL people, but I'm going to create a new role for a couple of people. One is the users of my webinar app, and I'm just going to call it user. So I assign the user role to that. I can create another one. I often do an admin role. It's usually where I start. Sometimes I add an approver, whatever. And you can see I didn't call this webinar user, webinar admin. That would be redundant, like we saw in the app creator role. The role name is X underscore my company code, application scope name. So XPMM webinar dot admin dot user dot approver. These are my private roles for this. Easy to do. I don't even need to think about this. Now it says, hey, how would you like to present this to the users? Think about this. Workspace is great for people who are in the ServiceNow environment 24/7. This is where they live. For ITIL, this would be your resolvers, your fulfillers. For customer service, this would be your customer service agents. We can give them that quick, easy to use agent experience using Workspace. If you don't have any personas like that, you don't need this. Mobile, we all know what mobile's good for. You're out and about, you want to make a record, you want to update something quick. It's not that full experience. Show me the dashboard of how many incidents for Japanese customers in the last 90 days. That's more for the classic UI. So if you need access to geolocation and camera, the onboard native mobile capabilities, mobile is the way to go. For this example, I'm going to select all three just because I want to demonstrate them to you and also what you need to build out at the end. So I'm going to click all three. We'll get back to that as soon as we define the data model next. So there are a couple of tables that I want to build for this. One is the episodes, and that is which show am I on and which episode. This one would be called Take a Guided Tour of Guided App Creator. And then another one is the attendees. Now, I happen to have the attendees in a spreadsheet with the episode name, the name of the attendee, and their email address. These are not the people that are live right now. This is demo data. So don't freak out and go, how'd Chuck get that so fast? This is an example. And it says, all right, would you like to use an existing table? I could, if I wanted to tap into the users table or the CMDB or something of that nature, or I could create a new table down here on the bottom. Missed. It's there. Create new table. Just want to make sure my cursor pointer was still working. And for the beginning, I can upload a spreadsheet, as I mentioned, and it will create columns and table for me. I can extend a table and say which table to extend it from, or I can start from scratch and say my new table, my new fields, whatever I need. For the episode, I am going to extend the task table because it is a process. It is going to move through states. I may be assigning it to somebody called the presenter. If this were my episode, I would be assigned to this episode to drive it from start to finish, or reassign it to Jeremy when it's his turn to fill out something of his. So it feels like a task-based process. I can use workflows and approvals if I have to get somebody to approve the presentation, something like that. So let's extend the task table. And I am going to inherit all of those wonderful task fields, the 66 or 67 of them, whatever it is, and make use of whichever ones I want. State, priority, due date, all of that good stuff that would make up my process. Here they are. I can't really change them. It gives me this no icon right under my cursor. It says, don't do that. But you can see I can relabel them at any point in the future. I would like to add one field because when people talk about which webinar, they're probably not going to be referring to, web 001005. It's like, that's a nice reference number for a ticket or a task that we need to track. I'm not going to have 8 million of these things. I'll probably only have 800 of them by the time I die. So I'm going to create a new field called title, make sure that is a string, and make sure it's long enough to hold a decent length title. So maybe 200 is good. I've got some options that I can use right now. I'll make this the display value. So when I see this as a reference field, maybe on the attendee record, I can see it as whatever the webinar episode title is. Easy to add fields that way. So extending a table, not a problem. Let's call this web. Oops, this is the episode table. I jumped ahead a little bit. I can make it extensible. I can auto number it. Maybe I call it web. I can even start doing some basic ACLs here. With the roles I've defined, I really don't want my users of this app to delete any of the records. I may not even want the admins to delete any. You have to be a platform admin. Think clearly on this. And that is one of the first things I often do is just turn off delete access. There's an active field on there if you need to filter things out. But when you delete a record, it's gone. It says, hey, I happily created you a new table and some fields. Would you like to continue? Yes, I do. Takes me back to the thing that says, All right, we've got the episode table. What do you want to do next? Now I want to import that sheet of attendees. So let's do that. And I always think clicking that is going to do something. It doesn't. You have to come down here and click continue. And I'm going to drop in my attendees spreadsheet. And I say, there's a checkbox right there that says, I want to import the data too. Data must be on row 1. If it's not, tell it where it is. It imports that, goes chug, chug, chug. This is doing all of that work with an import set, an import table. All of this is behind the scenes, and it analyzes and takes a pretty good guess at what types of fields you have. Email is a string field. 40, probably a little short. I've seen some pretty long names and domain names that might cause that to be a problem. Episode is not a string field. It saw that, but it doesn't know that it should really be a reference field. Doesn't know because it doesn't know what to point it to, and it doesn't analyze all your tables. So if I say go to the episode table, there's my webinar 2, went right by it, episode, I now have a nice reference field. And name, perfectly good string, but again, probably a little short. I like longer name fields. Did I not set that email to 100? There we are. Let's continue. I could add additional fields if I want, an active field, a date attended, what. You make up your own rules. Mine is pretty simple. I suggest start simple on your apps, and here we go. What do we call this one? Let's call this one attendee. Best practice, you name your tables with singular names, not attendees. It is attendee. This is a record of an attendee. So when it shows up on a list, it will automatically be pluraled by the dictionary. If it shows up on a form, it will not be pluraled accidentally. So, and I don't have to remember if I'm scripting later which ones are plural and which ones are not. None of them are plural. That's my rule. Let's give this a number. Sure, we'll call this attendee. Manage access again. I really don't want to delete any attendees. So let's take that off the table. And I can add another role at that point if I forgot something. Maybe an approver, maybe who knows. Goes through, imports the record, imports the data. And we get 567 rows imported. My new tables are created. My new fields are created. I've got 3, but it says 11 were created. So out of the 3, name, episode, and email, where'd the others come from? That's says created on, when it was modified, when it was updated, who modified it, who updated it, that kind of thing. So we are all set with tables. We have nothing more to do with tables. Lots of options we could have gone into in there, but I think if you poke around, you can figure it out. This is really straightforward. And I still haven't written any code. I still haven't really had to think too hard about what I need to do. I'm done with tables. Let's go into designing that experience. Remember that the 3 boxes I picked before, Workspace, Mobile, and Classic? This is where I configure them. So Workspace, for my people who are in here all day and all night, I click Start. I'm going to call this webinar. Since that's the name of my application, I could describe this workspace. And here is the URL suffix to this. I'll get a chance to copy that in a minute. But it's x/pmm/workspace webinar. And there's the roles of who has access to this workspace. Really not a whole lot of configuration to go on. I didn't change anything. I just have a choice here to make whether I want it to be tabbed navigation, which is nice if you're doing multiple records and drilling in and switching context, or if I do single page navigation, which has more of that breadcrumb experience where I can retrace my footsteps of how I got here. I've been picking tab navigation mostly. I don't know why. Maybe I need to explore the single page navigation a little bit more. Each has their own merits. I encourage you to.
One of those moments where you should take a moment and think about the user experience, of course, because sometimes single page is better than tabbed and vice versa.
Absolutely. And try them both out. Maybe this is a good point to test your thoughts on a developer instance.
There you go. Yeah.
All right. Finally, I choose, not finally, what goes along the top menu bar? You can see it's highlighted here. There's a search icon. I know it's kind of small. Notifications and profile, user preferences. I'm going to leave all 3 on. Search is going to be able to search through episode, attendee. I can add other tables. Maybe I want to search through knowledge base articles. Maybe I want to search through users. Maybe I want to search through CMDB. I'm going to leave it simple for my application here, but you can add additional tables there. Finally, what do you want on the left navigation? I've got a home icon to take me to the home. It's wonderful. We'll be doing more configuration of the home page in the future. We've got lists of my 2 tables, episodes and attendees. It'll make some nice menu options for me automatically. And inbox, should I start to get into things like a chat queue, it'll show up in the inbox. So let's just continue with that. I didn't really change anything there. Just walking through the instructions. Click next, continue next, next, continue next. And it's going and creating all of those artifacts for that workspace. And I can now test that workspace right here with the open key. And ta-da! This is currently in New York, the only way you can build a workspace is through Guided App Creator. So, what was that, Jeremy?
I was talking on our private line, but it looks like your screen's frozen.
I was noticing yours was frozen and your audio is a little broken up for me, so I'm hoping that's not an artifact on your end. Craig, are you experiencing any latency or delays?
No, not with your screenshot and audio.
Okay. We're going to do a check after the show on Jeremy's bandwidth. So we can see we've got lists for episodes and attendees. And because episodes is task, it created some things for me. Also did some basic list layout. So Workspace is pretty cool. We're going to come back to Workspace in just a little bit. Next, I'm going to do mobile. If you thought Workspace was easy, mobile is even easier. I think I've got one screen to go. Yep, looks good, go. Okay, so it spins, it spins, it spins. And it's always with demos that it takes a little longer than you wish it would. So I'm going to take...
That's part of the course today.
This instance was zippity fast last week. Did this demo about 10 times. Run some more. So, how's your weekend, Craig?
Good. It's all right. How about you, Chuck?
I had a daughter who got married. So I'm now feeling very old, but very happy.
And your wallet's feeling a little lighter.
Well, thank goodness for ServiceNow, isn't it? There we are. Okay. Really, I could change the icon maybe to this monitor to show webinars. I don't know what a monitor would represent. And again, I've got what tables I want to represent in the mobile and what roles do I want to do. And I happen to have my mobile app open right over here, which is currently not open. I'll do a quick refresh on this. There are no apps configured. Currently, I'm going to hit create, and I have a really quick way to start making mobile apps. Maybe I've got an idea for a show while I'm out and about, and I want to just jot that down. I can now pull up my mobile app, scroll down to refresh, and in a second or two, it's thinking hard. That's a good sign. As long as we don't get a timeout. We still have to do classic. Come on, bandwidth. Wow. No. You don't get to answer with that. The little scrolly is still going.
Yeah, let's say it's still working. So.
All right. You know what? While you're thinking, Mr. All right. We'll come back to that. I don't know where it was going. We'll do classic real fast. And classic is equally as easy. This is, of course, the lists and forms that we've been using for a decade or more. I want to call my main menu option, my application menu, webinar. I could give a description to this and tell it what roles and what tables I want to put in there. So let's go ahead and click create. And that was it. I'm done. Guided App Creator is officially over. I can continue in Studio if I wish. And you know what? I think I will bring up Studio at this point to continue. Let me just do another quick refresh on the mobile app. And, I'm going to just verify that I'm on the right instance. Yeah, I am. But I will log out and log back in to my favorite instance. And See if that helps. Scroll, scroll, scroll. If it doesn't, we're just going to jump to Studio. So we've got a workspace. We did not look at our classic UI yet. Let's go back here. Let's refresh this. So I'm going to say done there. Refresh this. And sorry about all the jumping around. Well, one thing is thinking. I'm sort of thinking of another thing. And if I type in webinar, I'll make that font a little larger for you. And it added a cross-scroll permission, which is nice. Here it is in System Applications, All Application. I can go ahead, edit in Studio. I also have down the side my webinar application menu, and it made me some fairly nice modules. I got closed because this is based on task. It goes, hey, you know what? A lot of people like to see which ones are active, which ones are not, which ones are unassigned, which ones are assigned to me. Let me go and make a few of those for you. That is very nice. Saves you a lot of time.
And you can easily remove any of those. So yeah,
right.
It's great to have those.
So here is my attendee table with my 567 attendees. It automatically linked it to the episode record, which has some basic but not very useful information yet. We'll go and take a look at that. I mean, the information is there. I mean, I thought I would have had a title. Title is there, but it's not on the form. So I need to do some form layout. The episode has the table of one record. And you go, well, how did this get created? It got created because episode is a reference field on the attendee record. And the first attendee that went, I have to create an episode record. It did that for me. Doesn't have a whole lot of details in it, but I can flesh that out later. So my point here is there's some post-guided app creator steps we need to do. And I am going to start out the most obvious way with the classic UI. So I'm in Studio. I selected my app. I like to start with all this stuff collapsed so I can find it real fast. And in the episode table, let's start out with just configuring the form. That form was inherited from task. It's a nice place to start, but it doesn't usually get me very far. So using Form Designer, I can do a very quick drag and drop, configure fields, very easy. And say, you know what? I don't need a parent field because my webinars typically aren't hierarchical. I don't need a configuration item. I'm going to keep assigned to there. Let's put active there. And what I really want is to get rid of short description and put in title. Ooh, there's my title field. Very nice. I could have a longer description. Maybe it's what goes out on social media or something. Let's also take a look at the state field, which I usually put in the upper right. Just sort of a happening thing. And instead of pending, maybe we get an idea. Instead of opened, it could be scheduled. Okay, I can just change these choices on the choice list to fit my progress, my process. Work in progress. Let's do post production, and then finally complete.
It might be worth noting, you may not want to change this after you have data coming in and you got things.
Correct.
Going, so
think about these beforehand. I mean, you can change them, but this is not the way I would do it. Because it could mess with your reporting. And what do you do with records that have the old fields, all that kind of stuff. So be cognizant of that. Good point, Craig.
So always, when you got data in there, add a status if you need to, but don't rename them.
Let's save that. And I am going to open up my web record and see how that looks. Hey, state, priority, title, we're looking pretty good. It's getting closer. But what I don't see for this episode is where are my attendees? Now, some of you may know that I could go configure related lists, but did you also know you could do that through Studio? In fact, I would recommend you do this through Studio because we're going to have to do that for Workspace. So create application file, data model, relationship, and it says, what table would you like to put this on? Oh, wise one. That's what it's saying to me right now, but it has to use some sort of apparently artificial intelligence lookup to display that.
Somebody's called you a wise one, at least.
I just confused it. Let's go. Wait, what? I'm sorry. That's a defined relationship. That's not what I wanted. That's why we make mistakes, so you don't have to. It is not a many to many. Where did it go? You know what? I don't have to remember. I can say related list. It's under forms in UI. Of course it is. Doesn't that make sense? So I say, take my episode table. Got to make that a little smaller so you can see the create button. And what would you like to put on there? I would like to put my attendees. So attendee to episode is the related list that we want to add. And I can add more if I want at this point. I will put that on the default view and hit save. Now, if I go back to this list and hit reload, I have my related list of attendees. Woohoo and double woohoo. Now, remember the workspace. Oh, lovely workspace. And remember, if you drill into one of these records, you will get this error message that says, this form has not been configured for workspace. Well, there's info there. It's using the default view, but it needs a workspace view. We have an open enhancement request to create the workspace view for you. But until then, this is about a 3-second process. You go back to Form Designer. Here's my episode record, all nicely laid out. I hit New. It says, what would you like to name it? If you are so lucky to name it Workspace, and click OK, and click Save, then that error message will not appear. Now, granted, I just replicated that view. You may not need or want the same exact view. Fine. Arrange them after you've created your new workspace.
All lowercase and everything?
Yeah, it'll recognize that. It's like ESS becomes self-service.
Mm-hmm.
So I now have a workspace view, and I will need to do the same thing for my attendees as well. Notice I don't have my attendees related list on here. You saw me do it before. It's pretty easy. Ready? New view on the related list. Call it workspace. Click OK. Hit save. And when I reload this, I now have loading. Keep those records loading. There's my list of attendees. Now, you go, well, that's pretty far out, Chuck. That looks great until you go to, lists, attendees. And something funky happened with this list. It's like, when have you ever needed a SysID in a list?
Me all the time.
Yeah,
but
right. Yeah, most agents who are going to be looking at these records will not need or want that. So I want to simplify this list considerably and reorder it. Now, one would think that was done via list layout. It is not for Workspace. This is one of the few things that is not in Studio. You go to Workspace, and under Workspace is List Filters right there at the bottom. And I find the one where the category is attendee. Or is it attendees? There it is. They pluraled that one.
Plural.
And there is my all. And you can see it's a little different experience than doing a standard list layout. The columns are defined right here. I'm not going to change any conditions or anything. All I'm going to do is put the name as the first column. I'm going to leave email. Episode is pretty obvious because it's already on the list. I don't even need the attendee number. You know what? I don't need any of this other stuff. Let's just get rid of it. Well, that's all I really want. Do that. Come back here. Refresh my attendee list. And oh, happy day. My list is fine. And again, I would want to configure this record for Workspace, or this view for Workspace as well. So there's a couple of things you want to do at the end, and that really takes care of the major ones. List and form layout on Workspace. There's some things you may want to do in mobile. I'm not going to get into Mobile Studio today because we're running a little shy on time. But other things you could do now that you've got your application built are things like a workflow. Maybe I want to put an approval on that. Maybe my PowerPoint needs to be approved before I show it on this webinar. Okay, where are we in that step? Who needs to approve it? Let's get them an approval record. Let's email. You're familiar with all that. I can do that with Flow Designer very, very easy. I could put notifications on there to say, perhaps at the end of the webinar, let's email everybody a thank you. Thank you for attending. Don't forget our next one's coming up in November. Da, 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 da. Do notifications, reports. How many attendees did we get this month versus last month? How many people registered versus how many people attended? There's all kinds of insights you can get now that this is off of that spreadsheet and into ServiceNow using Guided App Creator. Maybe an integration. We're posting this on YouTube later. So what about making a YouTube integration to say, go out once a day, pull back the number of views. How are we trending? How many likes? Are there any comments that I want to keep track of? That's something we did for the TechNow application. So that is a part of that. You can tell in a very, very short time, we have taken a spreadsheet and turned it into a desktop experience, a mobile experience, a workspace experience in minutes. We've imported that legacy data from the spreadsheet. We're enabled, we're ready to go for additional logic from Flow Designer, notifications, reports, SLAs. You could put something like that in. Maybe I assigned Craig a task and I want to make sure that that task is done on time. So I could have subtasks underneath the episode that I could assign out. It's all a big process. The more you start looking around your organization, the more you're going to see opportunities to automate and track those processes. Get off of email, get off of spreadsheets, and use something like Guided App Creator to walk you through that. So tips and tricks that I like to have, I had to write a few of these down. So watch for the naming on the tables, roles, and fields. Notice I named my roles user and admin, not users and admins. The tables, same kind of thing. The title field was title. I just added that one and said, you are the display field when I see this in a reference field. So avoid plural names on the tables and fields. The number of list columns, when I looked at, let's see if I had it up here. If I look at the episodes, active equals true. This is the default task table, but try to avoid horizontal scrolling when you're creating a list. I know it's tempting to put a lot of fields on there, but only put what you really, really absolutely need because there's more details a click away. And the form layout, side by side, put the important stuff at the top, kind of a summary. The longer fields like title and description were larger fields. Put those in a wide column layout, one column layout instead of the side by side 2-column layout. And any questions? Well, we have a couple minutes left.
Yeah. Let's see. I think this one, you can kind of go back and take a look. Somebody said your video cut out. So if you wanted to create a view for workspace again, it's just literally go to the view and type in workspace, create new, and then type workspace. And somebody was asking about using Guided App Creator to populate service catalog entries.
It's really for creating a new app or a new spoke in Integration Hub, something like that, where you're starting from scratch. A service catalog entry could be made via Studio. If you already had a table, like I wanted to create a new episode, I could say add to service catalog from here, and it would create a record producer. But for creating catalog items, that would be done through the whole catalog item process. Guided App Creator is not aligned to that process of creating catalog items. Good question, though.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much it. Let's see. Yeah, that's all the ones I really see. Where's the mobile? I'm not sure.
Mobile was selected as an experience at the beginning, and then we configured it. I was unable to get it popping up on my mobile app for whatever reason. I don't know what was going on. I was on the right instant. I was logged in as me.
Pop up in about 2 minutes, right when we're done.
Yeah. Yeah, when we're done, I'll do another swipe, and it'll go, there it is. Like, thanks, man.
That's right.
So
that's right.
Back to our wonderful, wonderful slides. I mentioned the next steps, workflows, notifications, reports, that kind of thing. You could put a chat bot in there. Maybe we need a conversation going about a particular episode or something. Guided tours for somebody who's new. Jeremy's a new team member. Maybe doesn't know how to use our webinar app. We could put a guided tour in there to guide them through what steps need to be taken. And of course, surveys, always handy for this kind of stuff. We encourage you to fill out the survey for this one at the end. Takeaways for this are we can create applications that really fast right now. We can enable that digital transformation, start taking some of those legacy processes and turn those into applications. We can develop at scale. Now I can enable armies of line of business people instead of putting everything in IT's backlog and saying, well, that's a nice little spreadsheet app, but we're not going to be able to get that because we have 3 other major objectives this year for our fiscal year, and IT is backlogged. Hey, let them take a crack at what I just did and say, all right, I've converted my spreadsheet. I've got a couple extra tables. Can you help me stitch a few things together or build some advanced logic or some custom actions for integration hubs so that I can do that YouTube integration? And of course, the experiences, man, I got options right, left, and center on that. So I know we're right at the top of the hour, and I want to respect your time. Lots of references for this. We've got docs on the docsite community, developer portal to get an instance. We've got lots of other TechNow episodes. You can go to bit.ly/ServiceNow-TechNow to get that. And remember, if we didn't get to your questions and answers, we will answer those offline, and you will get a notification from our webinar app that will send you a link directly to your question and answer. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Craig and Jeremy, for all the wonderful help in that. And we will talk to you again real soon. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. See you.
Bye, everybody.